The vibrant celebrations in Damascus embody the aspirations of a new generation eager to break free from the Assad regime. There exists a palpable optimism about the possibilities of rebuilding both their lives and their country. Despite the widespread destruction from years of conflict, thousands of families are returning to Syria. The overwhelming sense of homecoming is palpable, even as many discover their homes are no longer standing. The fragmentation of Syria into various controlled regions underscores the complexity of the conflict, shaped by multiple factions over time. Understanding this historical context is vital for addressing the challenges that lie ahead. Recent U.S. military operations in Syria have specifically targeted ISIS, aiming to hinder the group from regaining its foothold. This intervention signifies ongoing international efforts to combat terrorism in a tumultuous region. Israel's military actions have focused on neutralizing chemical weapons sites to prevent their use by rebel forces. This strategy reflects Israel's critical concerns about regional security and its quest to establish a protective buffer zone. The civil war, ignited by pro-democracy protests in 2011, has resulted in widespread devastation and an ongoing humanitarian crisis. Over 6 million Syrians have been displaced, many undertaking dangerous journeys in search of safety. The history of cruelty under the previous regime is starkly illustrated by the severe torture inflicted on prisoners in military prisons. This brutality remains a haunting aspect of Syria's recent past. Russia's hesitation or outright refusal to support the former regime signifies a shift in international alliances. This development raises critical questions about the future of foreign involvement in Syria. The new leadership claims to emphasize moderate governance and the protection of minority rights. However, their classification as foreign terrorists complicates their ability to govern effectively, presenting significant challenges ahead. The IDF has secured vital strategic positions in Syria amid ongoing militant assaults on UN forces, underscoring the intricate conflict dynamics in the region. Turkey's hope for a smooth power transition in Damascus reflects the complicated geopolitical landscape, as numerous factions compete for dominance in Syria. Israel's intelligence operations remain concentrated on monitoring Iran's activities and local factions, ensuring that any missteps do not jeopardize its national security. The Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, have engaged with militants to support the United Nations Disengagement Observer Force, illustrating the significance of international collaboration in peacekeeping. Prime Minister Netanyahu has articulated that the ongoing military actions are temporary yet crucial for defending against looming threats, with a primary focus on protecting the Golan Heights and Israeli citizens. Netanyahu also expressed an aspiration for peaceful coexistence with Syrian communities, especially the Druze, emphasizing Israel's readiness to foster diplomatic relations with neighboring groups. The decline of the Assad regime has considerably diminished Iran's influence in the region, directly impacting Hezbollah's capabilities along Israel's northern borders, marking a strategic advantage for Israel. Israel has undertaken assertive measures to fortify the Golan Heights, focusing on controlling strategic locations to protect both Jewish and Druze communities from potential dangers. Aerial operations by Israel targeting Syrian military sites aim to neutralize threats from chemical weapons and advanced missile systems, deemed critical for safeguarding Israel's national security interests. The Turkish-backed offensive against the YPG in Manbij highlights the persistent tensions between Turkey and Kurdish forces, further complicating the situation in Syria and potentially undermining counter-ISIS efforts. Turkey's foreign minister has stressed the urgency of Syrian refugees returning home, signaling a move towards national stabilization in Syria, backed by essential international support. Concerns regarding the treatment of minorities in Syria, particularly non-Sunni Muslims, have been raised, underscoring the necessity for equality in the future governance of Syria, reflecting Turkey's commitment to inclusivity. Assad's departure signifies a substantial setback for Russia's influence in the Middle East, where they have invested heavily in bolstering his regime over the years. The uncertainty surrounding Russia's military bases in Syria raises questions about their future power projection, now that Assad's government has faltered. Moreover, the involvement of Israeli and American forces suggests a strategic initiative to prevent Syria from spiraling into chaos, reminiscent of the earlier civil war conditions. In contrast to previous disorganized efforts, the establishment of institutional structures has led to improved communication and command adherence among military factions, enhancing operational success in battles. Furthermore, Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, the leader of the main rebel group, has sought to adopt a moderated stance through targeted social media campaigns, despite his controversial history with extremist factions. Recent Israeli military actions in Syria are primarily driven by concerns over regional security and the potential threat from Iranian weapon routes, complicating the conflict's dynamics. Additionally, Hezbollah's reliance on Syria for resources underscores the region's strategic importance for militant operations against Israel, presenting significant security challenges. Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit to the Golan Heights underscores Israel's proactive approach in addressing security threats and reassessing its military strategy amid the evolving situation in Syria. The collapse of the 1974 separation agreement between Israel and Syria has raised alarm bells, prompting Israel to secure certain positions to prevent hostile forces from encroaching on its borders. In this context, the U.S. has issued warnings against the reconstitution of ISIS in Syria, emphasizing accountability for organizations that support them, particularly in the current unstable environment. President Biden's administration seeks to collaborate with partners to manage risks in Syria, especially as support for Assad from Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia weakens. This shift opens up new opportunities. Additionally, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine has significantly hampered Russia's capacity to assist the Assad regime, resulting in an unprecedented lack of defense for Assad. Support for Syria's neighboring countries, such as Jordan and Lebanon, is critical for mitigating threats during this transitional phase, as a collaborative approach aims to foster a more stable Middle East. Moreover, U.S. forces have executed precision strikes against ISIS camps and operatives to prevent any resurgence, marking these operations as vital for maintaining regional security. Finally, engaging with Syrian groups is essential to facilitate a transition from the Assad regime to a new government, focusing on establishing a constitution that serves all Syrians.